Battleground Pennsylvania this afternoon, a heavyweight matchup. The president raising cash in Philadelphia, while in Allentown, only 60 miles away, Mitt Romney campaigns against the White House economic strategy. This new web video from the Romney campaign is already looking ahead to the general election, showing this Allentown factory that received stimulus money from the Obama White House but had to close anyway. Don Baer was Clinton White House communication director, and Mark McKinnon, former advisor to President George W. Bush, contributed to the Daily Beast, and both are co-founders of No Labels. So, Mark, first to you. Mitt Romney seems to be acting as though he's the nominee. We know that the primary in Pennsylvania isn't until April. It's a late primary. This is not New Hampshire, not Iowa, not South Carolina, Nevada, Florida. He's going for the larger economic message against the sitting president.
Not only larger economic message, but he's also trying to win what we call the first primary, which is the money primary, and he's trying to establish himself as the front runner, and he's running a very smart campaign so far. He clearly learned a lot from the last campaign, and by every measure so far, he's running very smart strategically, and I think he's going to show a lot of money raised during this quarter, and will be the front runner in the fundraising.
Let's talk about that fundraising and the first quarter results, Don, because expectation game being what it is, we're hearing talks of $40 million from the Romney, about the Romney camp, but from the Romney camp, they seem to be trying to lowball it a little bit. What kinds of numbers do we expect to see from the other Republicans that will make a difference? Is Michelle Bachmann going to raise more money than expected, and is she going to jump into becoming a first-tier candidate?
I think she's in the process of making that leap already. I mean, in terms of the kind of attention she's been getting, the way she's been handling herself out on the stump, what she said and did in South Carolina yesterday, where she was revealing a lot of very personal things and then tying them in to her sort of public positions in life, all of which is pretty meaningful. Where the money comes out this time is hard to say, but almost anything that she is able to register at this point is probably going to be read as being significant.
I think actually we even have a bit of the tape of Michelle Bachmann talking about how she became such an opponent of abortion, and she said that it came from her experience with a miscarriage. Let's watch.
After our second child was born, we became pregnant with a third baby, and it was an unexpected baby, but of course we were delighted to have this child. And the child was coming along, and we ended up losing that child. When we lost that child, it changed us. You can get money wrong, but you can't get life wrong. And I am committed to life.
That, again, Mark, shows the way she's connecting, the way she's communicating. And she's made a lot of mistakes along the way, you can argue. She has conceded that she's handled it much less defensively than some other candidates have.
But you know what's important, Andrea, is she's authentic. And whether you agree with her or not, she is very human. She reveals a human side of herself, tells a compelling story about a difficult experience that she went through. So voters can look at her in the same way that many voters looked at George W. Bush and say, you know, I don't agree with everything that he stands for or that he says, but I think it's genuinely from the heart and that he believes it. And I think that that's what they believe about Michelle Bachmann. And voters are so suspicious about politicians anymore because they believe that almost everything they say has been manufactured some way or scripted. So these kind of real human moments are very powerful in communicating that there's something human about this person, which is very compelling to voters.
And before we go, I want to ask you, Don and Mark, about the Tom Aspen Ideas Poll. I know you were involved in that. And we've pulled a couple of numbers out of that, which are pretty interesting. When people were asked what presents the greatest threat to U.S. stability, economic concerns, 75%. Rather than national security concerns, only 18%. And one other point that people made were that they see a decline in the last decade of America as a country. 68% see that the country has declined over the last decade. Only 23% see that the country has made progress.
The mood is very grim. And people don't want politics as usual, and they don't want fighting. They want their leaders to lead, to come together, bring them together to try to make some progress.
Well, and to the point at the top of the show, No Labels did some polling as well, and 8 in 10 Americans think that the people should be back at work. The Congress there's 32 days left until the debt ceiling deadline. Congress has scheduled more days off than days that they're working. They only have 11 days scheduled in the next 32, and hardworking Americans look at that and say, I'm working working overtime, working on weekends, and we're facing one of the biggest crises we've had in some time with our debt and deficit, and they can't even go to work. So I'm glad to see that they're getting the message, and that was part of what the president said last night. Let's at least get to the table, get everybody at the table, and show the American voters that we're serious about this.
Don Baer, Mark McKinnon, great to see you guys. Thanks for being with us today.